Let's talk about a place you might not have heard of, hidden away in rural Indiana. It's called Fox Lake. And for 100 years, it's been this incredible symbol of joy, community, and, yes, resistance. In this explainer, we're going to dive into exactly why.
You see this phrase, a place of their own? It was used in some of the early advertisements for Fox Lake, but it wasn't just some catchy marketing slogan. No, it captured this deep, urgent need that African-American families had during the Jim Crow era, a need for safety, for relaxation, and just for a place where they could be.
So think about this for a second. Put yourself back in the 1920s. You're part of this growing black middle class, you've worked hard, and you just want to take your family to a lake for a summer vacation. The answer, almost everywhere you looked, was, well, nowhere. And that harsh reality is what made a place like Fox Lake so absolutely essential.
All right, so to really get why Fox Lake was such a game changer, we have to first understand the world it was born into. It was a nation where even the simplest pleasures were systematically denied to Black Americans.
You know, when we think of Jim Crow, we often picture separate water fountains. But it went so much deeper. It was this pervasive system that locked Black families out of parks, swimming pools, beaches, and vacation resorts. It was an attempt to completely erase them from the American landscape of leisure.
And here's a perfect example of how tough it was. It wasn't just that existing resorts were segregated. When Black communities tried to build their own spaces, like this attempt near Valparaiso, they were often met with intense, hostile opposition that shut them down.
So if it was that hard, how in the world did Fox Lake actually happen? Well, its origin story has this twist you probably won't see coming. It reveals this fascinating, kind of paradoxical mix of segregation and capitalism.
Get this, Fox Lake was actually started by a group of white businessmen. And you might be asking, why? Well, they saw a completely untapped market. Here was this prosperous Black community with the money to travel, but absolutely nowhere to go. So, what started as a business decision ended up creating a vital cultural sanctuary.
And once it got going, the community just took off. The land's bought in 24. Then, just a few years later, in 27, Viola Reynolds shows up. She was the secretary to the famous Madam C.J. Walker, and her arrival gave the resort instant prestige. By the late 30s, they had electricity, and even their own property owners association. I mean, this was a real, self-sustaining community taking shape.
This table really lays it all out, right? You can see the whole evolution here, from just a piece of land to a modern community with its own government and eventually a nationally recognized historic district. This was a very deliberate process of building a community from the ground up.
Okay, but Fox Lake was so much more than just infrastructure and property lines. It became this incredible cultural hub. People even started calling it the Black Hamptons of the Midwest.
I mean, just imagine life there. You had everything. Trap shooting matches, Sunday school right there on the beach, dances at the clubhouse. There were swim programs for the kids, the Sharks and Sharkettes. It was a safe place for Black soldiers from Batterfield to unwind during World War II, and a go-to spot for church groups and alumni associations. It was its own little world, just full of joy.
And this right here is what makes Fox Lake's story so special, so resilient. See, a lot of other Black resorts, well, they kind of faded away after the Civil Rights Act passed. Families could finally go to other places, but Fox Lake, it kept thriving. And the reason is, it was more than just a vacation spot. It was a true community people belonged to, with traditions passed down from one generation to the next.
And it wasn't just any community. We're talking about a real who's who of the Midwest's Black middle class. You had doctors, lawyers, and entrepreneurs coming in from Indianapolis, Chicago, and Detroit. And they had some serious star power visiting too. Cultural giants like Duke Ellington and the boxing legend Joe Louis would come to Fox Lake to relax. It really cemented its status as a top-tier destination.
Now, the story of Fox Lake, its importance, it went way beyond the local community. It actually became a nationally known safe haven for Black travelers during a really dangerous time to be on the road.
For anyone who's not familiar, the Green Book wasn't just a travel guide. It was literally a lifeline. Taking a road trip for a Black family could be incredibly dangerous. You never knew where you'd be turned away, or worse. The Green Book listed the places that were safe, the places that would welcome you. It was an essential guide to survival.
And that's why being in the Green Book was so important. This quote from its official historic registration form says it all. It directly links the resort's amazing amenities and its vibrant community to its status as a safe harbor for Black travelers across the country. And here's what it looked like. Just this one simple line in the 1941 Green Book. It might not look like much, but to a Black family on the road, seeing this little entry was a massive sigh of relief.
It was a clear message. You are welcome here. You are safe here. So the story obviously doesn't end when the Green Book stops publishing. Fox Lake's legacy has been officially cemented in American history, and believe it or not, that recognition is still growing even today.
Okay, so let's look at the timeline of its official recognition. It starts back in 2001. That's when Fox Lake first gets listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
And that first designation, it included 27 of the community's most important historic buildings, a really big deal at the time.
But as it turns out, that wasn't the whole story. So fast forward to this year, 2024.
And boom! The historic district was massively expanded to include nearly 100 properties. This was a huge move that finally recognizes the full scope and the lasting impact of this incredible community.
And here's what I think is the most powerful part of this whole story. Fox Lake is not a museum piece. It's not some dusty, forgotten place. It's a living, breathing community, right now. The cottages are still filled with the children and grandchildren of the original pioneers, and they're carrying on the very same traditions that were forged here a century ago.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this thought. In a world that was literally designed to deny them their basic dignity, the residents of Fox Lake built a world of their own. They created a space not just for survival, but for happiness, for community. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Their story shows us that sometimes the most radical act of resistance you can imagine is to simply insist on joy.